Anda sedang mendengar Syok Podcast. Syok.
Sembang Ber-ART. Hi everyone, selamat datang ke episod baru podcast Sembang Ber-ART. Nama saya Alif.
Dan saya Zul.
Alright, so Zul,
Yes.
you tell me, like, what do you know about 3D or digital art?
Saya rasa I macam orang-orang biasa yang kalau dengar 3D, it's all about animation 3D. Kita akan bayangkan Disney, Pixar ataupun even local sekarang dengan Mekamato.
Oh,
apa semua kan.
yes.
So kita rasa macam genre 3D ni sebenarnya kita ada banyak kat luar sana. Tapi yang ramai tahu maybe 3D animation on animation lah.
Animation lah.
Yes.
But you tahu tak, the first time I know about digital art during zaman DeviantArt. Itu kan, DeviantArt. Is that what you
Yang
call it?
platform tu ke?
Yes, yeah. So
betul.
orang akan buat art and then dia akan upload dekat situ.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So that was the first time.
And lama juga kan kita tak visit DeviantArt or macam
Lama.
Art Station.
Lama
kan?
Lama gila. Since we're talking about digital art, 3D related,
Yes.
we have a guest. Kita ada guest.
Oh, really?
Of course. Every episode mesti ada guest. Okay, so we have Chris.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hi, Chris.
Really glad to be here.
Yeah. Before we even go deep into like macam to know more about what you do, digital art, 3D. Yeah, tell us about yourself.
So, I'm a 27-year-old digital artist. I learned digital art back in 2020. Yeah, right around when the pandemic started. But before that, I had literally no idea what art was. I had zero clue or like any talents in art. So it was like something very alien to me. I didn't even know it existed, back then. So it's kind of funny that you mentioned DeviantArt because that's probably one of my first encounters with like art back then. So before this, I was in a completely different line. I came from public relations. That's what I studied. I worked in an agency, and after that, I kind of found my passion in art and never looked back ever since.
You learned everything from scratch back in 2020
yes.
during pandemic lah.
Yes,
Kan?
March of 2020.
Oh, March. Wah,
Yes.
tahu bulan
Because
okay.
the reason why I say March was COVID hit. Everyone was on like total lockdown.
Yeah.
Like no one knew what was going to happen. Or
Yeah.
like how long like we're going to be in lockdowns. Back then I was doing photography. So I was shooting a lot of photos. I was going out and shooting photos. But when lockdown happened, I couldn't go out and actually shoot any photos or videos. So I was like, hey, you know what? I have no idea how long we're going to be stuck in the house for. I'm just going to pick up a new skill. And that's when I slowly came across art.
But macam mana? Okay, I know that you ada minat. You
Right,
have the passion macam okay, you know what, I'm gonna try new skill set lah in a way kan macam kan. Macam mana you terus macam like okay, day one of trying this new thing?
How it all started was, I think I was just scrolling to Instagram, and Instagram I came across this piece of art done by this amazing artist named Stuzor, and he creates like this pretty much dark kind of vibes to the art. Like I think you've seen some of my artwork, you've seen that element, so that's where it kind of stems from. You see, so when I saw his art, I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a drawing, and then from then I started like researching like how I didn't even know how to research. I literally found my way of researching through his hashtags, like what he was tagging. Like he was tagging the software. I was like, oh, okay, so it's a software. What kind of software? Google found out it's a 3D software. Okay, great. How do I get my hands on this software? Just take it step by step by step. Once I started piecing things together, I'm like, whoa, like I can create anything that I want. I can create like worlds that people imagine.
Why you choose 3D?
Drawing was like out of the story, but the reason why I fell in love with 3D was how interactive it was. Like you literally get a blank viewport, what we call it, like a blank slate, and from there you can literally add a whole bunch of different elements to create any world or anything that I can imagine, and it's just, I wouldn't say it's easy, it's definitely hard, but at this point of time right now when you're talking to me, I would say a lot of things are much easier to create. If I want my lighting to be different with a few clicks of a button, I can do that. So it really gives a lot of emphasis on the creating aspect instead of the technical aspect. It's still a very technical thing, I have to admit. It does give a lot of space for me to be like, idea doesn't work, what kind of other world do I want to create? Without worrying too much of like, I have to restart everything and whatnot. So it's something that's quicker to achieve, I would say.
Sebab kita nampak macam 3D ni is actually macam technical.
It is very technical. If you're obviously comparing to like Pixar, Disney, it's super complicated. Like those guys have entire teams of like 100 or 150 artists working on just a single character's motion throughout the entire film. So it is very technical. But if you're breaking it down to simple cover art, still art, or even basic animations, one person can do it.
One person to Chris. Power. No,
It
I
could be
rasa
anyone. It could be anyone, you know.
macam back in 2020 during pandemic happened, lockdown, this and that, right?
Right.
Ramai orang took that chance to learn something new.
Correct.
Whether it's like gardening lah, buat cake lah.
Yep.
But brother ni
Dia pilih
buat
3D, Mat.
pilih 3D. Faham tak? Out of all the things 3D So I rasa benda tu macam inspiring in a way.
Thank you.
You know,
Thank you.
macam inspiring, macam because like you said, we all know
Yeah.
like when it comes to 3D or digital art, there's so many technical aspects to it. But
A lot.
this guy, dia macam I'm gonna do it.
I have to add on, like, one of the reasons why I picked or found a passion in 3D is just me by nature. I just love to create. Ever since I was young, I would always try to create something, whether it's something physical or, you know, back then technology wasn't as great as it was now. But my dad used to work in IT, so he used to bring back like these old laptops that was not used by his company anymore. So what I would do is I would actually take apart the entire laptop. I would take the motherboard, I would take like all kinds of different things and try to create something like, it's some kind of machinery. So I always had that imagination for creating. And when I found 3D, I was like, wow, this is just perfect. I can just do anything that I want.
You boleh create and make,
Create,
tapi dalam
make
digital.
in a
Dia
digital
macam
aspect,
sculpting,
you know.
macam sculpture.
Yeah, it's
tapi
like
in
sculpting, but
digital,
in
yeah.
digital aspect, you know. And I
Yes.
think that it's a risk that I did what I did, because when I jumped into it, like, I'm going to be completely honest, I didn't have a job back then. So financially, it was tough. There was times where I was like, okay, don't have enough to eat. But I took that risk because I really believed in what I was doing. It's going to be about 3 years soon, and I've never been happier.
So let's say lah, if you tak ambil that risk of learning this new skill set kan,
Yep.
is there any other options for you that laid out macam in front of you, macam kalau tak 3D, like apa benda kreatif, skill set lain yang you nak try, ada ke?
At that point of time, no.
Memang you the time tu dah set.
Yeah,
okay,
like,
you know what?
I know
this
it's,
is it.
I know it's the smart thing to do, to have like a plan A or plan. But to me is I only have plan A, and plan A will work. That's the mindset that I had when I started it. Because to me, it's like there's no point trying to learn something and get into something if you're not going to give 110%. You know,
Betul.
if you're going to
Yes.
have a backup plan, it's great to have one. But if the fact that you're having a backup plan says that you have this thing where it might not work, when you have that mindset from the get-go, there is a chance that you might fail. You know, and to me, it's like I didn't want to fail at this because it's something that I really, really enjoyed. Take risks, but the smartest risk to take is something that's calculated. Stick to your day job and then do this on the side, and with the income that you get, finance yourself. Like when I had to buy hardware, right? Because obviously it's software and it's intensive. You know, I took out whatever I had left in my saving. Not everything, but a majority of it. But I really believed in what I was doing, and I just did it.
So when you start ambil 3D ni, belajar tentang 3D dalam your mindset is it you wanted to do it as a hobby, or actually macam you dah ada your own target?
It started off as a hobby at first, because I was still doing photography, right? I was still shooting photos and whatnot back then. But as it escalated, I realized that, hey, I'm actually doing something right. When I started posting them online and people were commenting and people were DMing me, it wasn't that great at first. Of course, I had a lot of people that literally came to me and be like, bro, like, what are you doing? Like, you're wasting your time. And they're like, oh, you're never going to make it as an artist. You never studied. It's kind of funny because years later, these are some of the same people that DM me now and be
No
like,
way.
hey, bro,
really?
like, are you hiring that
Oh
one of
my
them?
god. Dia
So-
macam ni tau, pepatah apa? Jilat di tempat yang you ludah balik tu. Faham tak? Dia macam dia dah kutuk-kutuk orang ni.
You jilat balik lah.
You dah kutuk-kutuk orang ni, cakap tak cantik lah apa semua. Lepas tu baru
hayat dia.
terhege-hege nak macam
Yeah.
like, you know what, like, hey.
Yeah, so I mean, when you're starting out anything, whether it's a business or it doesn't matter if it's art or anything, you're definitely going to have people that's going to be like against you. But I always say that don't follow a crowd. Even like the biggest companies in the world that you see today started from something. You had to start from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So same thing, like just drown out the noise, just focus on yourself, focus on what you do, and that's the kind of mindset I have until today. You know, I just keep pushing and pushing.
I think creative people always macam struggle. Like I start benda ni, I nak macam benda ni jadi macam apa yang I tengok dekat the screen yang orang lain punya.
Yes,
Sebab sekarang
comparing.
ni like orang semua nak cepat apa semua,
And-
so dorang ada this kind of like perfectionist
Punya
mindset lah.
mindset, yeah.
I think one of the things that I could advise people starting out anything creative is don't compare to yourself with someone who's been doing it longer than you.
Yeah.
You know, because
Betul.
it doesn't make sense.
Betul.
You know, it really doesn't make sense. Like, I wouldn't compare myself to, I don't know, a musician who's been doing it for like 10 years. It makes no sense. Take the time to actually learn what you're doing. Observe. And that's how I learned. It's like literally staring at an image for God knows how long. And I'm like analyzing the light. I'm analyzing the composition. I'm like, okay, so I'm getting information from looking up to these people. Like, a funny story is when I first started out, of course, I learned everything on my own. I learned from like YouTube and like Google. So I followed this guy. His name is Visual Dawn. And he creates this insane visuals, completely dreamy stuff. He has done stuff for like David Guetta. So I follow him on Instagram and subscribe to his YouTube because he was teaching tutorials on how to do things. So that's kind of how I started. Maybe about 6 months to 7 months later, one day on Instagram, I just see he followed me back.
He followed you?
He followed me back. And I was
Visual done. Yeah, visual done.
Visual done. And I was like, there's no way. This guy, I just looking up to him. I'm watching his videos every day. He was like, bro, like your work is really amazing. It paid off in that
Paid
sense.
off.
I think that's like one of my
Yeah.
first milestones. He is from the UK.
Lepas ni Chris akan fly UK bro.
Yes.
Jumpa visual
Dude,
done
I
for
want
sure.
to,
Lepas
man.
ni
First
by
flight there.
Malaysia, I'm
Right.
out of here. Sebab apa benda you cakap tu, it's so crazy. Macam like someone from the UK
Yeah.
acknowledge not just your presence but your work.
It's pretty crazy, and I wouldn't say that's the only story that I had.
Yeah, cuba
so
share.
last year, I got contracted by a fashion brand based in LA. So it was pretty exciting. We were working on it, and as we were working out, one day the CEO who I was talking to, he came to me and he was like, "Okay, hang on, I need to get like my partners okay on this." I was like, "Okay." And after that, it went blank for a little while. I'm thinking like, why does it take so long? Then he came back. I was like, I asked him like, why would it take so long? I was like, oh, just so you know, my partner is actually Chris Brown.
No,
Oh,
no way.
And
Jap,
Chris-
sabar. Oh,
Yes.
no way.
I
Serious?
still can't believe it until today. And the fact that he told me that Chris Brown actually had saw my work and he says that it's pretty sick.
I'm
Like,
done.
bro, I was
No,
like, there's
what?
absolutely no way that, you know, and because Chris Brown works very closely with this fashion company, and I was like, that's actually insane. And funny enough, I've never really told anyone about this because I'm not the type of person to be like, yo, you know, like, you know who I worked with? Like, I'm just pretty chill. But the people who I told, they were like, same reaction as you, you know.
I punya speechless sekarang ni. I tak tahu nak cakap apa.
Yeah, it was an insane experience.
Nampak tak? Chris
Yeah.
Brown
Chris Brown, bro.
bagi
Wow.
approval of his work. Apa? I
Insane
cannot.
thing that I've ever done, I would say. Yeah.
You sambung
So,
Azul, I still speechless.
Okay, semalam baru I tengok betul-betul scroll, tengok you
Mendalami,
punya
yeah.
you karya lah, and I can get the vibe constantly dark, and also the subject matter also macam real tapi not realistic.
Yeah.
You know, at the same time, maybe you can tell me more.
I like to create very dark vibes kind of art. To me, that is something that I like and something that's captivating. The visual out of it and make it look sick. Usually it will be of like a darker place where you see like maybe one character there that resembles facing some kind of adversity, whether it's facing fear.
I noticed
you know.
actually macam like the character was like something yang ada dalam your mimpi tau.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because to me, like whatever I've learned with the softwares that I use and all the art that I create, I don't like to limit myself by the real world. And what I mean by that is, I would love to create something very realistic that's based on outside world. But if I want to do that, I just pick up a camera and go out and shoot a photo. I have this skill that I picked up in creating all kinds of different worlds. So I like to put all kinds of weird things together. You know, that things that don't even belong. Something that I always have to have in my creative process. Even when I work with like certain DJs, they will send me like their music that I have to create visuals to, and I will play their visual over and over and over again until I feel that vibe. The visual has to suit the vibe. And it's the same thing with what I create for personal work. Whatever I do, it's the music that is driving that vibe for me.
Bila you cakap pasal music, vibe apa semua, maybe you boleh ceritakan your creative process.
Like my creative process starts off with a lot of different inspirations and other artworks that I see from different artists. So it's like, say for example, if you were to create an artwork and I really like your lighting style, I'd be like, okay, that inspires me to create something with maybe a similar lighting but in my own way. The ideas just come to me naturally, but it was never always this way. When I first started out, it was like really hard to get ideas because I didn't know what I want. You know, it took me like maybe a week to work on an art piece compared to like now, which I can do in a couple of hours. As I got better, it was easier for me to get those ideas. But of course, it's not really an easy thing, especially when you're doing it for a living. Constantly thinking of visuals for like client works and then like my own work. But you will get used to it. To really answer your question, I would say that music is the most important thing, my ideation process, and looking at other artwork, at other artists that I follow who I look up to, trying to improve and experiment with new different things.
So before you get everything on your screen, macam like digital kan, do you sketch it out?
I can't do sketches,
so,
man.
Maknanya whatever that you have in your head, you akan terus translate
Yes.
into the screen.
Most of the time, yes. 90% of the time, yes.
Boleh tak kita nak tahu clients yang you pernah work with? I mean kalau boleh lah. I mean like because I'm dying to know.
Okay,
Honestly,
okay,
Alti dia dah bagi tahu Chris Brown tu. Lepas ni siapa? Christina Aguilera,
No.
Britney
So
Spears.
that
Jangan
No.
The moment
So-
dia cakap situ, kita akan end.
No,
Terus
that-
I macam like I tak deserve ni.
That was probably like the biggest, most craziest
Yeah.
project that I worked on. But other than that, I usually do a lot for Twitch streamers. You guys know Twitch?
okay.
So I'd create a lot of like visuals for their streams. And the reason why I started that was when I started streaming on Twitch a little while ago, I started noticing a lot of smaller Twitch streamers who had the same basic layout. And I was like, wait a minute. And these guys want to go, become full-time streamers. So I'm like, I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, this could be like a market, I mean, they want visuals, I create the visuals, I don't have to price it at like an insane amount. The way I do it is quantity. I said, like, work with a whole bunch of them. So I was like, okay. And I got into that, and I was lucky enough to work with like Twitch streamers from the UK. I've done some from like the US. One dude, really nice guy from France, some Malaysians as well, So that was carrying me quite a bit financially. The bigger projects came in were for like fashion companies, like the one that I did for, they're called Renown, and that was partnered with Chris. So now I work with like a lot of musicians. Like this year is mostly musician centered, I would say.
I see.
Yeah.
Tapi musician tu semua US, UK.
I did. Okay, so
Malaysia
music
kan?
video wise, I did one for a local band, a good friend of mine.
Siapa?
Captain Trips.
Captain Trips.
Yeah. So
I pernah dengar.
Yeah,
So you buat apa dengan dorang? I mean, like dengan Captain.
I did a music video for them. Other than that, most of my work right now is focused around this music producer in Vegas, and he's been a really good dude. Like he's really chill. He brought me like a whole bunch of his friends who are also DJs, and they're coming in to like work on visual stuff. If you put it into perspective, I literally did not start out with like an art education. I didn't study graphic design. I probably had like one class in my whole life, in my diploma probably, about like motion graphics. That's it. And shout out to my lecturer back then.
Yeah, shout out to his lecturer.
Shout out to my lecturer. But that's pretty much it. And then I just started everything on my own, and to have gone to that level is like, and I'm still constantly growing, and that's the thing that I always remind people, I remind myself, never forget how you started out.
So AI technology, how do you see it?
AI art, I would say, is a very, very touchy subject in the artist industry right now, for many different reasons. So the way AI works is, AI is not naturally smart, right? In order for it to be smart and to recognize, people need to feed it information, right? So let's say if you wanted to write a music beat, you gotta feed it a whole bunch of music beat. But the thing is, where are these beats coming from? Are they coming from other artists? Do the other artists have consent of giving the stuff? It's the same thing for artists like me. Like a lot of the work that's been submitted and fed through AI is not by the consent of other artists, so technically stolen in a way. So that is the biggest issue that we have with AI. I believe a lot in the technology, but the way it's being implied right now is something that needs to be worked on. Eventually, I do want to work with AI. I think there's a lot of ways it will make my life easier, I would say. Right? But there's a lot of things that people need to read between the lines before using AI. I wouldn't use it for like final outputs for any projects, personal or definitely not client work. But hopefully in the next few years, when it's become more ethical to use and safer to use, I would definitely give it a go. From time to time, I would use it just to create certain references that I want to look at. But nothing more than that, I would say lah, for me at least.
I'm okay though, actually, dengan AI.
Okay.
Tapi kan, benda yang I tak okay adalah bila orang mengaku, I buat benda ni, I design benda ni, I create benda ni, tapi sebenarnya kau buat pakai AI. Faham tak? Ramai gila yang macam Instagram accounts yang before this dia post lah gambar-gambar dia apa semua, tapi bila this AI dah ada, dia post banyak macam artwork, artwork AI. Lepas tu in the caption dia tak cakap pun yang benda ni AI. Kita tahu. Kita tahu yang kau sebenarnya tak kreatif. I know for a fact that kau tak kreatif. Tapi bila when you start posting this, and then I macam, okay, banyaknya artwork yang you buat, and I baca komen, very nice, good job, you're so good at this and that. Tapi dia tak ada macam cakap macam like, ni AI lah, or like macam tak ada, tidak. Dia take that credit of like
they say it's theirs, and that's my big issue with a lot of these AI artists. They call themselves AI artists, but to me it's just they just use AI. I wouldn't say they're artists, because the way AI works is you literally just type what you want. You want whatever world you want, you just type it. It generates the image from like thousands or millions of other pictures. So it's not, you don't really learn things like lighting, composition, So, and the thing that I have a beef with is these people are selling this artwork to like clients. So my question is, what if AI, disappears? And then what then? Are you going to finally go and start learning from scratch, because AI art is very distinctive. You can tell it's done by AI.
Yep.
You know, especially if it's like a portrait. Like, here's a little inside tip. The best way to tell is AI. Just look at his hands.
The fingers kan?
Fingers.
Yes.
AI cannot generate proper fingers. They may
Kenapa,
do very
you know
well
why?
on the face, but fingers is very bad. You can tell it's AI.
Kenapa Chris? Do you know why?
I guess it's just the software, but it's just something about fingers that is very distinctive and it's very hard for it to generate. But I think the people are fixing that, and so I don't know how it's going to be like sooner or later. Yeah, so that's like my issue with AI. You know, it's good for coming up with references, but other than that, I wouldn't sell it. I mean, I get why these people are doing it, because they want the quick money, and however you want to hustle in life, that's up to you. But always remember there's an ethical side of things, you know, and it's more of like, you know, respect to the people that I looked up to who's been doing this for, I don't know, 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
You know, it's just literally taking their art, typing in a few words and get a piece of artwork, you know. So that's just where I stand on AI art right now.
It's a good tool for all creative people. Cuma like
It can be and
It can be.
It can
In the
be.
future,
Cuma how do
maybe.
you use it je dah tu je.
Betul.
Okay je nak pakai AI.
I think like one of the reasons why a lot of people are scared of AI is because it might replace their jobs in the future. And I think creatives are the first one to get hit by that thing. But I mean, look at the art industry. I mean, AI can nowadays easily replicate a lot of things.
Betul.
You know, and then soon it's going to go into like music.
Dia dah masuk music
I'm pretty sure yes.
Dia dah masuk music. I
Voice.
tengok satu video ni, AI tu dia buat lagu Adele singing.
Yes.
Suara macam Adele, bro.
Yeah, it's scary. It's
Scary.
actually scary.
Yeah.
You know, so like, what happens when a system or a machine automates everything creative? So where's the creativity then? I don't think everyone will be fully going into AI, but they'll probably use it in some way as a subsidiary.
Is there anyone out there, whether it's local ke international, ada tak yang you nak collaborate with?
I would say I definitely want to work with people like Zed, Geta.
Ooh.
You know, I mean, like, to me, like, my dream is to have my visuals played on like the biggest screens in the world.
You maksud you ni apa? Tomorrowland.
Tomorrowland.
Wah.
Like,
tu dapat.
like ultra. And then to me, like, when I see that, if I see my visuals on that kind of stage, it's when I'll tell myself, you made it. You know, that is like my biggest milestone.
Yes.
So until then, I'm still gonna work as hard as I can.
Future projects.
Commission stuff is still like normal, I would say. You know, it's still like what I'm doing. But passion project, I think this year I want to really create my own short film.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I think to any artist that's like a benchmark, you know, and it's also a way of like really putting yourself out there, because when you create a short film, it really utilizes a lot of different skills. But that's where you will really know what you know and what you need to learn, you know, because it's tough. You know, it's a full-length animation. And so this year, by end of the year, I want to actually release my own short film. I don't know what yet, but yeah, definitely a short film. So that is my
short film, but still the same vibe lah.
Still the same vibe, definitely the same vibe.
Wait, come on now.
Definitely the same
Chris
vibe.
is all about that dark vibe.
Funk.
you
know?
Gotta have that vibe.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, I can't wait for that though. I really hope you go for it though. Alright, I think before we end it, do you have anything that you want to say to anyone out there yang listening to this podcast, macam if dorang baru nak start with digital art ke ataupun 3D or anything, like in terms of like, you know, word of encouragement.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. I would say create a mindset where you always want to learn, because when you always want to learn, you will never lose.
Where can they find you? Like on social. So like what's your handles, accounts?
I'm on Instagram, Twitter. I do post some stuff on TikTok, crazy fun stuff. You can find it at 6 SIXTH, the number 6 in the middle, and TONE. So 66 Stone. You can find me there.
It's so nice to have this chat, Chris.
It's amazing, man. Like, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much for bringing me on and for allowing me to share my story.
Yeah, your story is very inspiring. Alright, so terima kasih.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
thank you
Thank you so
for coming
much.
here, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of podcast Sembang Ber-ART. Nama saya Alif.
Dan saya Zul.
Dan kita jumpa di episod akan datang.
Dadah.
Bye.